So, look, I remember the exact moment I hit $10,000 in my savings account. I know, staring at a bank balance isn't exactly the climax of an action movie. There were no explosions, Hans Zimmer wasn't playing a dramatic score in the background, and nobody handed me a trophy. Honestly, I was sitting on a hand-me-down couch eating lukewarm leftovers. But even though the sky didn't open up, something shifted. It was this weird, quiet realization that the invisible weight I'd been carrying around for 5 years just got a little lighter. And that is what we need to talk about today. We always hear about the first 100 grand, or becoming a millionaire, or buying a private island so you can avoid people you went to high school with. But nobody really talks enough about the first 10,000. And honestly, that first 10,000 is the hardest money you will ever save. It is a grind. It is miserable. It feels like trying to fill a swimming pool with a teaspoon while someone else is actively poking holes in the liner.
But once you get there, the physics of your financial life actually change. It's like leveling up in a video game where suddenly you unlock the double jump feature and enemies stop doing as much damage. So grab a coffee or water or the cheapest beverage you can find because we are saving money here. And let's break down exactly why everything, and I mean everything, changes after that first 10 grand. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, sure, easy for you to say, and I have bills, and my car sounds like a dying lawnmower, and the price of eggs is currently competing with the price of gold. I get it. The beginning is the worst. Charlie Munger, the late legend of investing, famously said the first 100,000 is a B word. He used the actual word, but I'm trying to be family friendly here, mostly. But I think in today's economy, adjusting for inflation and the cost of general existence, the first 10,000 is the new psychological barrier. Why is it so hard?
Because when you have $0 or worse, -dollars, every minor inconvenience is a catastrophe. This is the poverty trap. You're trying to save, you get to $500, and then your tire blows out. Boom, back to zero. You scrape together another 300, and then you get a cavity filled. Boom, back to zero. It feels like you are running on a treadmill that is slowly increasing in speed while someone throws dodgeballs at your face. But here is the magic of the $10,000 mark. It is the point where you stop playing defense and start playing offense. It's the buffer zone. See, when you have $500 to your name, a distinct lock of money makes decisions for you. You take the bad job because you need rent next week. You keep the unreliable car because you can't afford a down payment on a better one. You pay late fees because the paycheck didn't clear in time. It is expensive to be broke. I remember paying overdraft fees. That is the bank literally charging you money for not having money. It is the most sarcastic fee in existence.
It's like a doctor charging you extra because you're sick. But at $10,000, you gain the power of the word no. This is often called FU money, but at $10,000, it's more like polite disagreement money. If your boss is toxic, you don't have to quit on the spot, but you also don't have to panic. You know you can survive for 3 or 4 months without a paycheck. That changes your posture. It changes how you walk into a room. You sleep better. And getting better sleep actually helps you make better decisions, which makes you more money. It's a feedback loop. Now, let's talk about the math because I am a nerd and numbers don't lie, unlike my ex. The math of the first 10,000 is where compound interest finally stops being a theory and starts buying you lunch. When you have $100 saved, a 5% return gives you $5. Woohoo! Don't spend it all in one place. You can't even buy a fancy coffee with that. It's demotivating. You look at that $5 and think, why am I depriving myself of joy for $5 a year? I might as well buy the shoes. But at $10,000, a 5% return, which is pretty standard for a high-yield savings account these days, is $500 a year. That is passive income. That is a PlayStation 5. That is a round-trip flight to somewhere decent. That is money you did absolutely nothing to earn.
You just let your money sit there and it made little baby money. And if you have that invested in the market, making say an average of 8 or 10%, now we're talking nearly $1,000 a year for doing nothing. This is the moment where the snowball starts to roll on its own. You don't have to push as hard. You see the balance go up even when you didn't deposit anything. That psychological hit is addictive. It's better than likes on Instagram. Watching your money make money makes you want to save more money. It cures the spending urge because you realize that spending that $100 now isn't just losing $100. It's losing the infinite stream of interest that $100 would have generated for the rest of your life. I know, I sound like a buzzkill. But seriously, once you see the interest hit your account, you start looking at a pair of sneakers and thinking, that's not sneakers. That's $20 of annual passive income I'm wearing on my feet. And then there is the insurance aspect. I don't mean Geico. I mean self-insurance. When you have 10 grand, you don't need to pay for extended warranties. You don't need the insurance on your phone. You don't need credit card protection plans. Those are products designed for people who cannot afford a surprise expense. You can afford the surprise, so you stop paying the premiums. You effectively become your own insurance company. You keep that profit. Over a lifetime, avoiding those little fear-based upsells saves you thousands of dollars. It's another example of how having money saves you money. But let's get real for a second about how to actually get there, because I don't want to just sit here and tell you how great it is at the top of the mountain while you're still hacking through the jungle with a dull machete. The path to 10,000 is boring. It is spectacularly unsexy. It is not going to go viral on TikTok. It involves staying home on Friday nights. It involves meal prepping things that taste okay-ish. It involves driving a car that embarrasses you slightly. I drove a Honda Civic that was 3 different colors for 4 years. Did I look cool? No. Did I save money on car payments? Yes. The biggest mistake people make is trying to get there too fast by gambling. They take their first $1,000 and throw it into some meme coin or a stock they heard about on Reddit because they want to turn it into 10,000 overnight. Do not do this, please. I am begging you. That is not investing. That is a donation to Wall Street. The first 10,000 has to be saved the hard way. It has to be earned and kept. You have to claw it out of your budget. You have to look at your subscription services and ask yourself, do I really need 4 different streaming platforms? I mean, are you actually watching that much TV? If you are, that's a different problem. You need to cut the fat until you hit that number. Once you hit 10,000, you can relax a little. You can get Netflix back, but until then, you are in war mode. Another thing that changes is your social circle. This one is weird, but it happens. When you are broke and spending everything you make, you tend to hang out with other people who are broke and spending everything they make. It's comfortable. You complain about being broke together over $40 cocktails. It's a bonding ritual. But when you start saving, you might feel a little isolated. You're the guy saying no to the expensive dinner. You're the girl skipping the bachelor party in Vegas because it costs $2 grand. You might lose some friends, and that sucks. It genuinely hurts. But you also start to attract people who are on the same wavelength. You start realizing that maybe your previous definition of fun was just expensive distraction. And eventually, when you have that safety net, you can actually be a better friend. You can pick up the tab once in a while without stressing. You can lend a buddy money in a real emergency without panicking that you won't make rent. You become the stable one. That is a good feeling. It's a quiet confidence. Let's pivot back to the psychology of opportunity cost. When you don't have $10,000, you are forced to be short-term greedy. You have to take the quick buck. You can't invest in a course to learn a new skill because you need the money now. You can't move to a new city for a better job because you can't afford the moving truck. Poverty charges interest in missed opportunities. Having $10,000 is like having a key that unlocks a bunch of doors that were previously invisible. Maybe you want to start a side hustle. You need a camera or a laptop or some inventory. If you have zero savings, you have to put that on a credit card at 25% interest. Now your business has to be instantly profitable just to pay the debt. That is stressful. That leads to bad decisions. But if you have the cash, you buy the equipment. You take your time. You learn. If it fails, okay, you lost some money, but you aren't ruined. You aren't bankrupt. You just learned a lesson. That safety allows you to take calculated risks. And calculated risks are how you actually get wealthy. Nobody gets rich just by saving.
You get rich by owning things. Businesses, real estate, stocks. But you can't own things if you don't have the ante to sit at the table. The first $10,000 is your buy-in. It's the ticket to the game. I also want to address the skeptics who are going to say, well, with inflation, $10,000 isn't what it used to be. You're right, it's not. $10,000 today buys you less than it did in 1990. Thanks, Federal Reserve. But the principle remains exactly the same. Whether the number is 10,000 or 15,000, the point is reaching a level of liquidity where a single external event cannot destroy your life. That is the goal. It is about resilience. It is about becoming anti-fragile. When you are fragile, a gust of wind knocks you over. When you are anti-fragile, the wind just makes you stronger because you learn how to lean into it. Okay, let's talk about where to put this money. Because I have seen people save $10,000 and then leave it in a checking account, earning 0.01% interest. That is a crime.
That is disrespectful to your hard work. You worked hundreds of hours for that money. Do not let it sleep on the job. At a minimum, it needs to be in a high-yield savings account. I'm not sponsored by any of them. Just Google it. Find one that is FDIC insured and pays a decent rate. It takes 5 minutes to open. If you leave 10 grand in a regular checking account versus a high-yield account, you are literally setting hundreds of dollars on fire every year. Don't do that. Once you have the 10 grand as an emergency fund, and yes, the first 10 grand should usually be accessible liquid cash, not locked up in a retirement account you can't touch. Then and only then do you start looking at the stock market. You start looking at index funds. You start looking at Roth IRAs. The order of operations matters. If you invest before you have savings, you will be forced to sell your investments when the car breaks down. And knowing the universe, the market will be down exactly when you need to sell. It's Murphy's Law of finance. So, secure the perimeter first. Build the wall. Then, build the castle. I want to circle back to the suck phase. The part where you are eating rice and beans. It is temporary. I think a lot of people give up at 2,000 or 3,000 because they think, is this my life now? Am I just going to be miserable forever? No, you are front-loading the pain. You are paying the price now so you don't have to pay it later. There is a concept called delayed gratification, which sounds like something a boring guidance counselor would say, but it is the superpower of the wealthy. The ability to say, I will not buy the thing now so I can buy the freedom later. And let me tell you, buying freedom feels way better than buying a new iPhone. The dopamine hit from a new phone lasts about a week. Then it's just a phone. The dopamine hit from knowing you can quit your job if your boss yells at you, that lasts forever. That is a warm glow that keeps you warm at night. It is the best antidepressant on the market. Now, a warning. When you hit 10,000, you will feel rich. Relative to where you were, you are rich.
You will have an urge to celebrate. You will want to buy a round of drinks. You will want to upgrade your car. Resist this urge. Fight it with everything you have. This is the danger zone. This is where lifestyle creep comes in to assassinate your progress. Lifestyle creep is when your spending rises to meet your income or your savings. You save 10 grand, so you think, I can afford a luxury apartment. No, you can't. Not yet. The goal of the first 10,000 is not to spend it. It is to keep it. It is a trophy. It is a battery. You don't drain the battery just because it's full. You keep it there for power. If you spend it, you are right back to zero. And let me tell you, falling back to zero after feeling the safety of 10 grand hurts way more than being at zero in the first place. It's psychological torture. So celebrate with a high five, maybe a reasonably priced pizza, then keep going. Aim for 20, then 50. The first 10 is the hardest, but the second 10 only takes half as long. Why? Because now you have the habits, you have the muscle memory, you know how to say no to spending, and you have that $500 of interest helping you out. By the time you get to 100,000, the snowball is huge, but you cannot get to 100 without passing 10. It is the gatekeeper. So if you are currently sitting at $200 and feeling hopeless, stop. You are not hopeless. You are just at the beginning of the hardest part. Embrace the suck. Make a game out of it. See how cheap you can live for a month. Sell stuff you don't need on eBay. Pick up an extra shift. Do whatever it takes to get to that 5-figure number. Because once you cross that line, the wind is at your back. The world stops fighting you and starts helping you. And honestly, it's just nice to look at a bank app and see a comma. Commas are beautiful. We love commas. So go get your comma. You've got this. And if you don't have it yet, just remember, I used to eat spaghetti with ketchup because I couldn't afford marinara sauce. If I can do it, you can definitely do it. Just keep grinding, keep saving, and don't buy the tiger. Seriously, tigers are a terrible investment. Stick to index funds. Cheers.